now and set live transcript and auto and transcription.
Get ready to open the doors. Hi, good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. This is the American Ethical Union All Society Platform meeting. Welcome. I see there's lots of you joining us. Please feel free to drop something in the chat. Let us know where you're coming from. Are you from Baltimore? The Midwest? Out West? You can rename yourself if you like, and feel free to share your pronouns. Again, thanks so much for everyone being here today. Welcome. Oh my gosh, we're up to 86 participants. This is exciting. Again, welcome to the American Ethical Union All Society meeting featuring Representative Jamie Raskin. You're in the right place. If that's what you were looking for, you are here. Welcome. 92 participants. Please let us know where you're coming from. We want to know, where is everyone coming from? Put it in the chat. Drop it in the chat. Hi, welcome. 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 Please feel free to drop something in the chat and let us know where you're here from today.
Welcome, Alan from Missouri.
Oh yeah, I do. I see Alan from Missouri. And there's Louise from Maryland. Hi, Louise.
I see lots of Baltimore and Philadelphia members from my society.
I do too. Yeah. Well represented. 108 now. Hi, if you're just joining us, you have joined the All Society platform of the American Ethical Union, and we're featuring Representative Jamie Raskin today. Welcome. Welcome. Let's see who else is here. Please let us know where you're coming from. Drop it in the chat.
I see folks from the Congressman's neighborhood. Richard and Peggy, welcome. I see others.
Oh yeah, Gail from Bergen County, New Jersey. Hi, Gail. Randy Best from North Virginia. Randy, I remember you from Colloquy. Ronald from Chelsea, New York. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. So good to have everybody with us on the platform today. Again, this is the American Ethical Union All Society platform, and we're featuring Representative Jamie Raskin today. We're so glad to have him with us. We'll be starting shortly. Hi, Chris. Chris from Garden City, Long Island. Hi. And Kent and Joe Ellen from St. Louis. St. Louis in the house. Yay.
Welcome, Charles from Baltimore. Hope you're well today, Charles. We have the mute on, given our 132 people. It would be a cacophony, I think is the word I'd be looking for.
Is that Charles or Charlie?
I think that's Charles.
Charles.
Yeah.
138 joining us so far this morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome all.
Do I have 142? Do I have 143? Yes, I do.
Alicia Evans from Long Island. Hi, Alicia. Please drop it in the chat. We want to know where you're coming from today.
And is
So
that,
far, I think we've got as west as St. Louis. Can we get more west, more south, more north?
I see an Ellen. Is that an Ellen and Jim from Toronto? Is that our furthest north, our lowest, our highest latitude?
Can you hear me?
I can hear someone. Everybody's on mute. When you come in, you're on mute. So we can't hear you, but you can hear us. And feel free to put something in the chat. Let us know who you are and where you're coming from. We want to know. I think we have a Molly, and we have a Betsy from Philadelphia, a Patty from PA, and the Susquehanna Valley Ethical Society, Chicago Ethical Humanist Circle. Hello, Chicago.
And remind people who you are, Kathy.
Oh, I'm Kathy. I'm Kathy Esky, pronouns she, her, and I'm from the Baltimore Ethical Society. Welcome all. I know some of you from last summer's colloquy, so good to have this togetherness again.
And the background disembodied voice you're hearing is Hugh Taft Morales.
Yeah.
From Tacoma Park, Maryland.
Hi, Arthur. Hi, Laura. Hi, Patty and Paul. And Glenn from Westchester. Welcome all. This is the All Society platform featuring Jamie Raskin, Representative Jamie Raskin. And if that's where you were looking to be this morning, you have found us. We'll be starting in just a few minutes.
If you've just tuned in, people are putting their name and their preferred pronouns and where they're coming from in the chat. If you'd like to share that, welcome to Kathleen and Emil. Thanks for joining us today from Baltimore.
And Maxine from St. Louis. Oh, someone's going to go refresh their coffee. Please get your coffee. Go get it now. We're getting ready to start. We've got about 9 minutes before we begin. Hi, Ron from Northern Westchester. Hello. And we have Paula from Silicon Valley. And there's Mike Heaney from Philadelphia. Mark Ann Tipton from St. Louis. Wow, Jim Norman from New Jersey. Everybody, every state. Looks like we're going to be well represented here. We should see how many states we actually got on today. Hi, Paula. Hi, Matthew. Again, I'm Kathy. I'm from the Baltimore Ethical Society. I'm here with you all today on the All Society platform of the American Ethical Union. We are going to be featuring today Representative Jamie Raskin. So welcome, welcome everyone. And we can't hear you, you can hear us. Please use the chat. Tell us where you're coming from, and make sure to rename yourself if you need to rename yourself, and feel free to share your pronouns. Hi, there's Lori and Alex and Mary from Long Island. Hi, Mary from Long Island.
You know, Kathy, the way this is going, I feel like we're public radio hosts, right? we should be offering giveaways for large donations.
That sounds great. I didn't realize you were disembodied before. I can see you. I didn't realize other people couldn't see you. But that's our very own Baltimore Ethical Society and Philadelphia, Hugh Taft Morales.
Very pleased that we have 243 participants signed in.
Wow, that's great. And Brian Holland and Leanne Keefe from Holland of Silver Spring. Hi. Let's see, who else? Perry Bider from the Washington Ethical Society, and also Maryland's 8th Congressional District. Woo! Maryland in the house. Woo!
Absolutely.
Let's see, we have a couple more people joining us from Long Island and Philly. Wow, this is great. Bergen County, New Jersey. Brooklyn in the house. Boy, that was all caps.
They don't whisper in Brooklyn. They're full on.
Hi, Wayne from Baltimore. And Ann from Austin. Austin, that I think, Austin. Is that Austin, Texas? I think we got west.
Yep.
I think we got southwest there. And Bill and Joy from Bethesda, Maryland. Hi, Paul. Paul from Baltimore. Oh, gosh. Wow. This is great. Did we have a confirmation? Were the other people from that you mentioned, were they from Canada?
I haven't gotten that confirmation yet, but I see Paula's calling from California, so we got the further west there.
Yay!
We span the country.
Yay. And Mark from West, and Laura Steele from Ellicott City, and Sarah from Cleveland, Ohio.
Joy
Hi,
and Rich.
everyone.
Joy and Rich from Asheville.
From Asheville. Yay. Hi, Rich. I remember you from Colloquy that summer. Hi. And Lynn Dobrin. Hi, Lynn.
Lynn Cox, interim leader at Washington Ethical Society. Thanks, Lynn, for being on.
If you're looking for the All Society platform featuring Representative Jamie Raskin, the American Ethical Union, you're in the right place. We're getting ready to start. We're going to start in about 5 minutes. So this is our gathering time. Please feel free to talk to each other in chat, say hi to us, let us know where you're coming from, but feel free to talk to each other and say hi to each other. I'm sure that you're recognizing many different members from your own societies chatting in. So say hello. This is our time to say hello. We have somebody else from Austin again, and more Silver Spring members. And RISEC is represented. And Clifton, Maryland. I didn't even know there was a Clifton, Maryland. Wow. Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is the All Society platform featuring Representative Jamie Raskin. So we're getting ready to start in just a few minutes. Feel free to put where you're from in the chat. We want to hear from everybody. So far, we've got 341 people on with us. So it's a big community here. If you see somebody in the chat that you know, feel free to talk to them as well directly. But let us know where you're coming from. We have some more Bergen County, New Jersey, Bethesda, White Plains, New York. That's Bethesda, Maryland. Bethesda, right? Maryland.
We have Trish calling in from Missouri. Trish has been working with our young folks in ethical culture for many years. Hey, Trish, welcome.
I see St. Louis again. Nancy from St. Louis.
Essex
Wow.
County, New Jersey.
Paula,
New
are you
Jersey is
there?
well represented.
Hey, Stuart.
Paula?
Glad you're with us.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to start in about 3 minutes. Again, this is the All Society platform featuring Jamie Raskin, Representative Jamie Raskin, and it's the American Ethical Union. Welcome all. Please feel free to use the chat, talk to us, let us know where you're coming from. More Marylanders. Yay, Maryland. St. Louis.
If I unmute myself.
There's
Couple guest
Philadelphia and
appearances.
Novus. Love the photos of our people all around the country.
Mm-hmm. That's Hugh Taft Morales talking in the background. Just mentioning the photos that we have up now, some of the different societies that make up the American Ethical Union. Welcome,
It
everyone.
was here before.
Another guest appearance. Sometimes people come through unmiked. It's a surprise. Oh, we have Boston in the house. Yay, Boston. So good to hear from you, Boston. And Manhattan.
Pushing into the Northeast.
Yep. Hi, Argentine from the Baltimore Ethical Society. Woo, woo.
We're up to 455, Kathy.
Wow. Can we get 500?
I think we will.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone. If you're just joining us, you're at the All Society platform of the American Ethical Union. We're going to hear from Representative Jamie Raskin today. So hold on to your hats. We've got a minute to go. And we're going to get started. Happy stormy April to you too, North Carolina. We're having storms up here in Baltimore too.
Oh, I hope our electricity holds, Kathy. Fingers
Me
crossed.
too. Me too. If not, I assign somebody from New Jersey to take my place. There's a lot of New Jersey people here. Hi, Riverdale. Hi, West Orange, New Jersey. There's the Northern Virginia Ethical Society. Welcome all, welcome all. This is the All Society platform of the American Ethical Union. You're in the right place. We're going to be hearing from Representative Jamie Raskin today. So welcome, welcome to all. Oh, the sun is shining in Missouri. Okay, Missouri, if the storm takes me out, you got my place, Missouri.
Send it east.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the All Society American Ethical Union platform today featuring Jamie Raskin, Representative Jamie Raskin. Welcome.
Kathy, we blew through 500. We're at 560.
500 and counting. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Dorcas. There's my buddy. So good to see you. I mean, I can't actually see you, but welcome. I saw your chat. Hi, Rosemary. Welcome, everyone. This is the All Society platform of the American Ethical Union. We're going to hear from Representative Jamie Raskin today. It should be starting any moment now. We're in the 11th hour of the AM.
And welcome to Valerie from Northern Georgia. Glad you're with us.
St. Louis again.
And I will have to say it's not me on the guitar as far as I know, but sounds like something I'd play.
We have another California. Yay! California. I think we're going to get started here.
As soon as I unmute myself. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this All Society Platforms. I bring you greetings from the American Ethical Union. My name is Bart Worden, and I'm the Executive Director for the AEU. I'm very pleased to welcome you today for this All Societies platform. And we're very fortunate to have the United States Congressman Jamie Raskin from Maryland with us as our guest speaker. And by the way, we wish Congressman Raskin and all who celebrate Passover a very good season. The American Ethical Union is a federation of ethical societies in the United States. Our member organizations are committed to the joyful task of realizing the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We work to bring greater compassion and equity into our communities and beyond. Our groups offer an alternative to traditional religions and provide a humanistic community experience that is open to everyone. There are currently 23 ethical societies from coast to coast, and there are more ethical societies on the way, so we hope you'll visit one or more of our groups, via Zoom, of course, right now, at the end of this meeting, so that you can get a little bit more familiar with us. So welcome all here today. And now I'd like to turn the program over to today's presider, Joanna Brandt.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joanna Brandt from the Baltimore Ethical Society, and my pronouns are she and her. Welcome to today's All Societies platform, one in a series of platforms intended for the whole ethical culture movement, as well as our friends in the humanistic and free-thinking communities. Whether you are a longtime member of ethical culture, if you're brand new, or you're joining this morning as a friend or neighbor, we are glad that you are here and welcome. Today's platform is brought to you by members of the Baltimore Ethical Society, the Ethical Humanists of Atlanta, the Brooklyn Society for Ethical Culture, and the American Ethical Union. We also have cameo appearances from societies in Westchester, Missouri, and Silicon Valley. We want to acknowledge that all American ethical societies are on land that originally belonged to indigenous peoples. In Baltimore, we gather on the unceded land of the Piscataway, Lumbee, and Cherokee peoples. Please use the chat to acknowledge the original inhabitants of your area. Then join me to honor their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations, with a moment of silence. Today's platform reflects elements from multiple societies. At the Baltimore Ethical Society, we open our platform with our statement of purpose, followed by poetry. Ethical culture is a humanistic, religious, and educational fellowship inspired by the ideal that the supreme aim of human life is working to create a more humane society. Our vision is a society that values relationships and affirms the worth of every person. Our faith is in the capacity and responsibility of human beings to act in their personal relationships and in the larger community to create a better world. Our commitment is to the worth and dignity of the individual and to treating all human beings so as to bring out the best in them. Members join together in ethical societies to assist each other in developing ethical ideas and ideals, to celebrate life's joys and support each other through life's crises, to work together to improve the world and the world of our children. Kirk Mullen, the coordinator of the BES Poetry Salon, will read today's poem.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to read a poem which was written by Elizabeth Alexander. Ms. Alexander has a connection with ethical culture through her father, the still living Clifford Alexander Jr., who was a graduate of Fieldston, the ethical culture school in New York City. Ms. Alexander's poem was written for the first inauguration of Barack Obama. The title of her poem is Praise Song for the Day. Each day we go about our business, walking past each other, catching each other's eyes, or not, about to speak or speaking. All about us is noise. All about us is noise and bramble, thorn and din, each one of our ancestors on our tongues. Someone is stitching up a hem, darning a hole in a uniform, patching a tire, repairing the things in need of repair. Someone is trying to make music somewhere with a pair of wooden spoons on an oil drum, with cello, boombox, harmonica, voice. A woman and her son wait for the bus. A farmer considers the changing sky. A teacher says, take out your pencils, begin. We encounter each other in words, words spiny or smooth, whispered or declaimed, words to consider, reconsider. We cross dirt roads and highways that mark the will of someone and then others who said, I need to see what's on the other side. I know there's something better down the road. We need to find a place where we are safe. We walk into that which we cannot yet see. Say it plain that many have died for this day. Sing the names of the dead who brought us here, who laid the train tracks, raised the bridges, picked the cotton and the lettuce, built brick by brick the glittering edifices they would then keep clean and work inside of. Praise song for struggle, praise song for the day, praise song for every hand-lettered sign, the figuring it out at kitchen tables. Some live by love thy neighbor as thyself. Others by first do no harm or take no more than you need. What if the mightiest word is love? Love beyond marital, filial, national, love that casts a widening pool of light, love with no need to preempt grievance. In today's sharp sparkle, this winter air, anything can be made, any sentence begun. On the brink, on the brim, on the cusp, praise song for walking forward in that light.
Thank you, Kirk. Many societies provide a time for members to share personal joys or concerns. We've adapted this for today's platform by asking representatives of 5 societies to share a joy or sorrow that has recently touched their membership or community. We'll begin with Atlanta.
Hello, I'm William Dagger with the Atlanta Ethical Society, and I'll be speaking about Caitlin Carrico, who you can see on your screen. Even though I'll be talking about the joy that the Atlanta Ethical members are feeling, I'll start by asking who here is used to facing repeated rejection. I know from my experiences, rejection is something I often have to deal with. Catalina Carrico has had her share of rejections over the years. Her idea that single-stranded molecules of genetic code could be used to fight disease was just seen as too radical and too financially risky to be funded for close to 40 years. No one in the biotech community ever took her very seriously. She believed that mRNA could be used for something truly groundbreaking. Now, today, her work is the basis of some of the most successful COVID-19 vaccines in use. And societies all over the world have the potential of getting back to normal, in part because of the unyielding power of her human spirit. This is all the more meaningful to those of us living in Atlanta because the CDC, which is a big part of the scientific community that Catalina is involved with, is so much a part of the DNA of our city. That's it. Cheers, and thanks so much.
Thank you so much, William. We are certainly grateful for that sharing. Let's hear from Baltimore.
Apologies, sorry. Hello, everyone from Baltimore, the Charm City. My name is Sophia Puracal, and I am a member of the Baltimore Ethical Society. This morning, I am happy to share the news that 2021 marks the 70th anniversary of the date when the AEU officially recognized us as an ethical society. As you can see, it was such exciting news, the Baltimore Sun reported it in their evening edition. Before officially becoming an ethical society, the society's founding members met as the Baltimore Ethical Group on the Johns Hopkins University campus. At that time, Baltimore's churches were segregated, and the members came together in part to establish Baltimore's first racially integrated Sunday school. We think our founding members would be proud to know that the Baltimore Ethical Society continues to grow, thrive, and advance the values of ethical culture. And we, in turn, are deeply grateful for the robust foundation they built for us 70 years ago and for the support we've received over the years from the American Ethical Union.
Thank you, Sophia. I am a proud member of the Baltimore Ethical Society. Let's hear from Mid Rivers.
Thank you, Joanna. Greetings from St. Peters, Missouri. My name is Greg Bueller. The members of the Ethical Society of Mid Rivers would like to share some joyful news this morning. The space where we've been meeting for nearly 20 years belongs to the University of Missouri Extension Office. Our society has grown rapidly in recent years. We now have 20 children enrolled in our Ethical Education for Kids program inside a single classroom, which, as you can imagine, can create some challenges juggling kids ranging in age from pre-K to high school. We were worried about having to move to a new location to accommodate additional growth, which would have been costly and difficult during the pandemic. Fortunately, the Extension Office has recently agreed to renovate the space in order to create an additional classroom for our kids program. With these renovations, our beloved location will have a new classroom by the time we are ready to meet in person later this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. That's really exciting, and may all societies follow your example. Let's hear from Silicon Valley.
Hello, my name is Molly from Silicon Valley. We are a society of 26 members. Several years ago, I began volunteering within the homeless community. The following year, our society began serving a dinner meal once a month at one of the nighttime shelters. The experience gave us the opportunity and privilege to serve a community in need. Since we stayed and had dinner with the guests, we also had the pleasure of meeting and conversing with these adults. For me, this was a humbling experience, and I am grateful for the time we spent together. During the pandemic, we have continued the program, even though we cannot stay and enjoy the experiences. In recent months, we have invited other nonprofits and community groups to join us in our monthly activity. We also began to provide other amenities for the shelter: toiletries, socks, hats, gloves, scarves, and even some jackets. Despite the sadness of our neighbors in need, of seeing our neighbors in need of safe housing, we have the joy of knowing that we can make a difference in their lives and in ours. And a shout out to Paula Rochelle for spearheading this social action program. She has made this happen.
Molly, thank you so much. Silicon Valley is small but mighty. Let's hear from Westchester.
Okay, so the Westchester Society has had its share of sorrow this past year as they lost two very special longtime members, Charlotte Klein and Oliver Swift. Charlotte and Oliver both joined with their families and continued as active members after the children were grown. And Charlotte was a society bookkeeper for many years and kept our finances in order like no other. She's also an avid member of her local art community and shared her own art at society arts festivals. Oliver Swift served on our board of directors and headed numerous committees over the years. He served on the 8U Leadership Committee, and he also was very involved with the New York City Liberty Union and the Westchester Coalition Against Islamophobia. Our hearts go out to his wife, Beverly. They both have been devoted and beloved members of the society. Thankfully, Beverly continues to participate from her home in Pennsylvania. And I simply can't just be the bearer of bad news, so I'll close with something uplifting. Our Ethical Culture Society of Westchester is celebrating its 100th year anniversary this October. And we are hoping that by then we'll all have been vaccinated for COVID and can celebrate our 100th year anniversary together and in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Bart, and thanks to all who shared news from their societies. We appreciate hearing what is happening at ethical communities across the country, bringing us all closer together. Now we'll have some live music with singer and songwriter Leah, who is interim music coordinator of the Washington Ethical Society. Hello.
This is a song by Jimmy Hammer and Dave Kenoy. When I wake up in America, I see my neighbors there with every type of clothes and shoes, hats and skin and hair, every fine belief and custom, scores of songs from who knows where. When I wake up in America, our stories fill the air. Wake up, wake up, wake up in America. The light in the harbor shines for us all. When I wake up in America, when I wake up in America, I hold my head up high and I make my way as others do, beneath the same great sky. I recite the Pledge of Allegiance in a voice both clear and strong. When I wake up in America, I'm right where I belong. Wake up, despierta. Wake up, despierta. Wake up in America. The light in the harbor shines for us all. When I wake up, I see the kids playing happily, happily swaying. It's good to be staying in a place like this, with a face like this. When I wake up in America, I put away my fear and I love my neighbors as myself. I say, I'm glad you're here, 'cause we have found ourselves together in a land that we dream could be. When we wake up in America, everybody will be free. Wake up, despierta. Wake up, despierta. Wake up in America. The light in the harbor shines for us all. When I wake up, when you wake up, when we wake up in America.
Wow, Leah, thank you so much. I remember hearing you. I've been listening to you for so long, Leah. I have about 8 of your CDs, and I remember listening to you in Adams Morgan. So thank you for continuing to bring beautiful music to ethical culture.
Thank you.
So we're going to have the congressman join us pretty soon. My name is Hugh Taft Morales. I'm the leader of the Baltimore and the Philadelphia Ethical Society, and I'll be introducing the congressman when he gets on. There are a couple of elements of ethical culture's history that I want to share before he gets on to do offer a little bit of a groundwork. There has been a project in ethical culture for a long time to try to focus on making our democracy all that it can be. Felix Adler, very early on in his leadership in ethical culture, offered the following phrase: "The obvious faults of our democracy have retarded the progress of democracy in Europe. Our failure in municipal government is constantly quoted abroad as an argument against democracy. This should be a real incentive to rouse us out of our complacency." The importance of the American efforts to try to restore democracy has global implications. And that has something that we have to focus on. We in ethical culture can contribute to a tremendous effort in the United States. When Al Black was working for ethical culture and out of New York, he talked about the fact that our biggest enemies are not so much outside of the United States, they're within ourselves. He said, "The crucial question is whether democratic society can rid itself of its major defects, the excessive inequalities, the callous impersonality of relations, the ethics of the marketplace, the abuses of commercialism, and the racial and religious and class divisions, the false values of lush materialism. Although democratic society must deal realistically with the threat of military conflict, it is endangered not so much by external forces as by internal weakness." So it's us that have to work to try to improve our own country from within. And that's why we're so glad that people like Congressman Jamie Raskin are involved. Have we got the congressman online yet?
He has just arrived.
Wonderful. Welcome, Congressman Raskin. So glad you're with us. Appreciate that you probably don't have a day off, and Sunday morning is a rare one, so we're so glad you're with us. My name's Hugh Taft Morales, and it's truly a joy to introduce Representative Jamie Raskin from Maryland's 8th District. Congressman Raskin was lead House manager in the second Senate impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump, which ended with a 57-43 vote to convict. It was one of the most bipartisan presidential impeachment processes in U.S. history. A professor of constitutional law, best-selling author, and former whip of the Maryland State Senate, Raskin has been on the front lines of defending democracy against authoritarianism in our time. He authored the successful House resolution calling on Vice President Pence to activate the provisions of the 25th Amendment after the failed coup of January 6th to prevent any further descent into chaos and violence at the hands of Donald Trump. In the first week of December 2020, Raskin introduced a resolution adopted overwhelmingly by the House, 386-3, calling for release of all religious prisoners on earth and for the repeal of all nations' blasphemy, apostasy, and heresy laws, which involve imaginary offenses and are notoriously used to oppress and persecute innocent people. Congressman Raskin is co-chair of the Congressional Free Thought Caucus, which he co-founded with Representative Jared Huffman, a Democrat from California. Raskin came to the attention of freethinkers nationally when he testified in the Maryland State Senate in 2006 against a proposed constitutional amendment to ban same-sex marriage. At that time, a right-wing senator asserted that the Bible defines marriage as one man and one woman. Representative Raskin answered him with this retort, quote, "Senator, with all due respect, when you took your oath of office, you put your hand on the Bible and swore to uphold the Constitution. You did not place your hand on the Constitution and swear to uphold the Bible." One of my favorite quotes of Congressman Raskin's career. Before I turn the platform over to Representative Raskin, I want to let you know that the Congressman will be taking questions later in the program. And if you'd like to submit a question, please do so using the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Please note that this is different from the chat function. So please use the Q&A button for your questions. And finally, as I walk through the neighborhood that I share with Congressman Raskin in Tacoma Park, Maryland, I see many lawn signs, both hand-drawn and commercially printed, that testify to the pride and affection that we have for our congressman. While his recent work in the second impeachment trial made him known internationally as the brilliant and balanced public servant that he is, this did not surprise those of us who've known him well before his government service. All who know the congressman appreciate that he is the most down-to-earth, humble politician who works tirelessly for others. Guided by his humanist ideals, he works for his constituents. His ceaseless efforts are not aimed at assuring his political self-interest, but are meant to shine light upon our ethical ideals and to bring out the best that our country has to offer. These are just a few of the signs. If you walk around our Tacoma Park neighborhood, which many members of the Washington Society do regularly, you'll see these. And this following sign has on it what I think may be the congressman's favorite piece of writing. I wonder how many can guess. Yes, you're right, it's the Constitution. And this one features one of his favorite historical people. Many of you may know his affinity for Thomas Paine. And this following one references Paine's Common Sense, an important piece of literature in American history. But my favorite one is this one, the one that reads, Jamie Raskin for National Moral Compass. We need you as our national moral compass, Congressman. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with the American Ethical Union in your talk titled Partisanship, Fascism, and the Common Good, Defining Public Ethics After the January 6th Insurrection. It's all yours, Congressman.
Hugh, thank you for that beautiful introduction. Thank you for showing me those gorgeous signs. I'm gonna have to get some of those from you. If you can share those photos for me, I gotta show them to Sarah and the girls. I'm delighted to be with everybody. And Hugh, thank you for your surpassing leadership for the Ethical Union and for ethical principles and for our community. It's really a pleasure to be with you and to be with all of these great Americans on the Zoom today. I thought I'd talk for just like 10 or 15 minutes. Am I following instructions correctly, Hugh? For like 10 or 15 minutes about my subject, and then we can just open it up generally to questions.
Yeah, Congressman, you have more time if you wish it. We have you for up to 25 minutes or so, but if you finish early, we will have more time for Q&A after a couple of other segments.
Well, look, I've spent a lot of time thinking about partisanship and the role that partisanship played in the final outcome of the Senate trial. As you know, as you stated, Hugh, we ended up with a 57-43 vote, which was kind of crushing to me when we first went around and did the roll call. The result has grown on me a little bit. I mean, it is a decisive majority repudiation of Trump's conduct. We got the strongest bipartisan impeachment vote in the House and in the Senate in American history. You know, there were just 4 impeachments of Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton, and then the first and the second Trump impeachments that went to trial. And so we had the strongest bipartisan showing for conviction. We brought over a total of 17 Republicans, which is not bad, 10 in the House and 7 on the Republican side. And people were very surprised that, we got a lot of people were predicting it would just be a 50-50 vote in the Senate. So I do believe that we succeeded in convicting Trump in the court of public opinion. We succeeded in convicting Trump in the court of history. You will recall that Mitch McConnell went to the floor immediately after the trial to say that he had been convinced that Trump had in fact incited the insurrection and that he was morally, personally responsible for it. Then, quite shamefully, I think McConnell hung his hat on a rather frivolous jurisdictional argument that the Senate could not conduct the trial after Trump had left office, even though he was convicted for actions that he pursued while in office, and even though he was impeached by the House while he was still president. That specific procedural or jurisdictional issue, if you will, was dispensed with on the very first day of the trial when we had a vote that the Senate could exercise jurisdiction. And that ruling is one that goes all the way back to the very beginning of the Republic, and it was most emphatically articulated by the Senate in the Belknap decision in 1876. So we felt we had authority firmly on our side, dismissing that argument. In any event, McConnell evidently felt that the balance of power was such within the Republican Party that he could state the truth about what had happened. He could echo the impeachment managers about what had happened, but that he needed to figure out some technicality upon which to acquit President Trump, and that he did. But I got to thinking about the whole role of partisanship in the outcome here, because I felt that it should have been 100-0 to convict. We had the overwhelming, staggering weight of evidence on our side, which we had methodically lined up, from the president coaching and exhorting people to violence for many months before the takeover of the Michigan legislature, which Trump had helped to incite, the conspiracy to kidnap and assassinate Governor Whitmer in Michigan, a number of rallies where Trump had helped to recruit the Proud Boys to come and they got violent, and then all of the events on January 20th, which everybody saw. So basically the process of inviting people to Washington, inciting them to violence, and then essentially indicting himself by all of his actions after he was called by people on the Hill, including Kevin McCarthy. You'll recall the deposition that we submitted from Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler, which stated that McCarthy had told her he had gotten in touch with Trump to say, "You've got to save us." Trump replying, "It's Antifa." McCarthy telling him, "No, it's not Antifa. It's your people who are threatening the lives of the president and the speaker and all of the members." And then Trump saying, "Well, maybe they just care a little bit more about the election than you do." To which McCarthy said, "Who the F do you think you're talking to?" Which some people think is an example of McCarthy acting like a tough guy, when in fact he was really saying, "Who do you think you're talking to? Who do you think has been carrying your water all this time? Who do you think has been doing more than me in order to overthrow the popular election result and to try to force the election into a contingent election in the House, where members would be voting not one member, one vote, but one state, one vote." And that would have been an election that Trump could win. And that was the whole purpose of trying to thwart the acceptance of the electoral college votes from Arizona and Georgia and Pennsylvania. So in any event, we should have won 100-0. We didn't. And I think that partisanship obviously had a lot to do with it, but it's a certain kind of partisanship that has arisen in our century. It's a kind of partisanship which is much more akin to cultishness. And I liken what has become to the Republican Party to a religious cult of personality around a deranged, charismatic leader. One way of understanding the last 4 years is that the Republican Party and the Trump presidency became a mass religious cult surrounding an organized crime family, which was looting the government and looting the people. So how did this happen? Well, look, partisanship is built into our constitutional and political system. And I will give two cheers for partisanship. Partisanship is good in the sense that it reflects the freedom of speech, and it reflects the right to organize people. And people don't agree, and the framers of our Constitution knew that there is a broad diversity of public opinion. And the political scientists figured out early that if you have single member district elections and elections for one officer, the electorate will sort itself out into two big groupings, into two big parties. And you could get rid of partisanship by getting rid of parties, and you could get rid of parties by imposing a one-party dictatorship system. So in that sense, I think we can understand that partisanship is good. It allows a freedom of thought and a freedom of political action and organizing, and it helps to articulate issues and organize the public for electoral purposes. But once we're elected, I think we've got to remember that the derivation of the word party is from the French word parti, which means a part. And so our party is just a part of the whole. And when we get in, we have to try to act for the whole, like to try to advance the interests of healthcare for everybody, not just the people in our party. We have to try to promote environmental protection for everybody, not just people who belong to our particular caucus. Members of Congress actually know how to do this, how to behave in a nonpartisan way. Overwhelmingly, members, when we do our constituent work, when we go to bat for somebody on a Medicare check or VA benefits or Social Security or whatever, we don't ask them whether they're a Democrat or a Republican or independent or green or whatever. We just ask, do you live in our district? Because we're not entitled to do such work for people out of our district. That's it. So we know how to behave in a nonpartisan way. I think that the senators knew how to behave in a nonpartisan way, but 43 of them just refused to do it because I think that they have adopted this more cultish form of political partisanship. If Donald Trump woke up and said, the dictator of North Korea is our best friend, then he was our best friend. But if he woke up and he said, we're going to nuclear war against the dictator of North Korea, then they would all get in line and say, we're going to nuclear war against the dictator of North Korea. So all that matters is what the dear leader says when he wakes up that day. And I can prove to you that that is what has become of the Republican Party, because 2020 was a notable and dreadful and god-awful year for a number of reasons. But one of them was that this was the first time in the history of the Republican Party or either major party where they didn't write a platform. The RNC at their convention decided not to develop a policy platform. So effectively, that means the Republican Party stands for whatever Donald Trump says it stands for on a particular day. Now, all of this leads to fascistic ways of thinking about politics and fascistic methods of political contest. In her really excellent book that she wrote last year, Madeleine Albright was not afraid to use the F word, fascism, to describe what was happening in America, because she said to her, fascism is not structured by a series of substantive political ideals or values. Fascism is just a method for achieving power. And if you will do whatever you can and must do to achieve power in order to maximize the position and the wealth of your family and your person and your cronies, that is essentially a fascist way of thinking about power. And it stands out in a democratic republic, which was based on the idea that the government has got to be an instrument of the common good. Right now, the Democratic Party, I think, is the voice not just of the millions of people that identify with its party, but it is the voice of democracy itself. Sometimes my Republican colleagues in committee will deliberately mispronounce the name of our party in its adjectival form. They'll say that Democrat member put in a Democrat bill with a Democrat amendment. And, and we've tried to correct them innumerable times to say that when you pronounce our name, in the adjectival form, it's democratic. It's the Democratic Party. It's a democratic bill, but they refuse to go along with it. So now when I hear them say it, I get up and I say, you've got a political speech impediment and it's spreading to our side, because every time you call us the Democrat Party, I call you guys the Banana Republican Party. It just comes out that way. I can't seem to resist it. But I finished reading this book, Hugh, a wonderful book about Franklin D. Roosevelt called Traitor to His Class. And I learned something really interesting, which is that Roosevelt referred to our party as the democracy. And he would say the democracy takes the position that you invest in the common people and then everyone will benefit. But the plutocrats, the royalists, take the position you must invest money in the wealthiest people, in the wealthiest corporations in society. So now I tell the Republicans, if you can't pronounce the name of our party, just call us the democracy, because that's the role that we played historically, at least at our best. That's the role we've played. That's the role I would like us to play. And I think that's where we are today. We are now in a titanic struggle over the right to vote and the right to participate in politics. There are more than 250 bills that have been introduced by Republicans across the country to effectuate voter suppression, to keep people off of the voter rolls, to purge people from the voter rolls, to prevent people from voting early, to eliminate weekend voting, to get rid of mail-in balloting, or to require that mail-in balloting be accompanied by 3 pieces of photo identification. All of these crazy hurdles being set up to prevent what happened in 2020, which is the majority actually winning and ruling. The Republican Party is a minority party. It is a shrinking party in America. It's an increasingly authoritarian, cultish, and fascistic party under the control of one person. And so their method for political organizing is not to develop a program. They don't have one. It's not to go out and organize new people, because there's no purchase in that for them. It is to prevent other people from voting, to stop other people from getting to participate. So there's a high burden of hope on the Democratic Party, on the democracy, to show that government can be an instrument of the common good again. And I think that we have done that with the American Rescue Plan, $1.9 trillion that we're putting into the society to vanquish the disease, to beat COVID-19, which of course, Donald Trump, with his magical thinking, promised would disappear by Easter, and urged everybody to combat by injecting themselves with bleach and all of this nonsensical, irrational thinking. Where we are today, I believe, is increasingly a triumph of science, a triumph of common sense, public reason, and a resurgence of commitment to democracy. But we are obviously in a huge, huge struggle over what the future will be. I sort of had the dream or the conceit that we might be able to put this brand of American fascism to rest in the impeachment trial. And we didn't do that. When the Republicans came to see me, I would say, this is something that needs to be done for the Constitution and for America, but especially also for your party, because he will destroy your party. He will bring your party to ruin if you don't use this as the opportunity to reestablish the rule of law in America and to reaffirm the Constitution. And they didn't do that. So this struggle is going to continue significantly through the 2022 election and the 2024 election. It's really the political struggle of our lifetime. So the tough part about this is that everything is on the line at the time when, excuse me, at a time when we need to be working on climate change and building sustainability and resiliency. We also have to be doing that within the political structure. But the good part about this is that we get to go out and fight for everything that we believe in terms of science and common sense and the Constitution. and the democratic form of government. So I'm honored to be able to work with the people on this call in that way. And I will close my remarks there and open it up for any discussion.
Great. Thank you, Congressman. So appreciate it so much. So we have a lot of questions coming in on the chat. This is the time for Q&A. If you want to submit a question, please put it in the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. Of course, with almost 1,000 people on this Zoom, we won't have time for everybody's questions. But let me go back to the influences in your life, if I can, Congressman. Who would you pick, or what writings or influences would you say shaped you the most, making you who you are? A little biography background, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, you know, I've been a constitutional law professor for 3 decades, and I always loved constitutional law. And so I love the founding period. I got a lot out of all of my readings about Tom Paine and Ben Franklin and Jefferson and so on. And all of that, of course, has to be read also through, you know, the major failing of the founding period, which was the failure to get rid of slavery in America. And so the Civil War period and the Reconstruction period, reading about Frederick Douglass and Sojourner Truth and Abraham Lincoln, the radical Republicans in the Reconstruction and the abolitionists is equally important to learning about the founding period. But you know, I've always loved the Enlightenment period and the Enlightenment philosophers and the social contract philosophers, you know, Hobbes and Locke and Rousseau, and you know, any rationalist too. I mean, Spinoza is somebody who I loved to read. I always loved when Spinoza said that religion looks for miracles in places that are or in events that appear to break from the natural laws, you know, of gravity or the laws of astronomy, whatever. And he said that actually the miracle is not in these apparent or reputed departures from the laws. The miracle is in the laws themselves, that nature and science provide actual rules that we can come to understand about how things actually work. And I remember being very moved by that when I read that. So,
so we have our Raskin reading list that we're going to have to, we'll get all those books on a special column on our website.
I can say that my father, who was a political philosopher, was a very big influence on me as well. And, you know, several of his books, especially a book called The Common Good, really moved me and, you know, have influenced my thinking. And, you know, more recently, I've been very influenced by my son, Tommy, who we lost on the last day of last year. But Tommy wrote more than 100 essays about things, and he was a passionate advocate for human rights, but also animal rights and welfare. He was a strong vegan and turned everybody in our family vegetarian. And he sort of, he had begun to work on a book actually about reappraising liberal political philosophy through the prism of animal rights and animal welfare. And, you know, what does John Locke look like or Thomas Hobbes look like through the perspective of animal rights and welfare? So Tommy was a brilliant thinker, and it's such a terrible loss to all of us, obviously, but he influenced me.
Well, I just want to share before we're going to take a quick break before we get to the political questions, Congressman. I just want to share that I'm sure people on this Zoom know that your son Tommy died on December 31st. And I just want to say that we're all holding you and Sarah and Tabitha and Hannah and the rest of your family in our heart and send profound condolences. So holding you.
Thank you, Hugh. Thank you very much for your kindness.
if we can take just a brief couple of minute break, Congressman, maybe you can get a glass of water. I know I've got a little scratchy throat as well. We'll come back to you in about 4 minutes, and I'll hand it back to Joanna for a brief break.
Awesome.
So thank you so much. We will now take a moment for silent reflection. Today's ethical quotes will be read by members from the Ethical Societies of Atlanta, Brooklyn, and Baltimore.
Justice, democracy are not common concepts. On the contrary, they are rare. People are not born knowing what these are. It takes enormous and above all, effort to arrive at the respect for other people that these words imply. James Baldwin, writer, playwright, poet, and civil rights activist.
You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. That's from Dr. Jane Goodall, scientist, naturalist, and humanitarian.
Democracy needs a ground to stand on, and that ground is truth. Marcus Raskin, co-founder, Institute for Policy Studies, author, political activist, and father of Congressman Jamie Raskin.
And speaking of memorable words, this song was inspired by the poem The Hill We Climb by Amanda Gorman, which was delivered at the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will. There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will. There is always a light. There is always light. We are ready to see it. There is always a light. There is always light. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will. There is always a light. There is always light. We are ready to see it. There is always a light. There is always light. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will be light. There is always light. We are ready to see it. There is always light. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will. Shine your light in the darkness. Shine your light in the darkness. See the light, to be the light, to raise our out loud and be a gift in the world. Shine your light in the darkness. Shine your light in the darkness. See the light, to be the light, Shout out loud and be a gift in the world. Be the light.
Wonderful, wonderful. Leah, I don't know how you pull in your doppelganger to sing with you like that. That's amazing. Thank you. So we have some questions. We'd like to dig into some of the questions about the future of our democracy. If we can spotlight the congressman again, I'll share some of the questions that came in on the Zoom. So folks on this Zoom, Jamie, appreciate the growing threat to democracy within the United States. It feels like we're hanging by a thread. What is the most important thing you think we should do to help strengthen our democracy?
Well, we got to pass HR 1, which will eliminate gerrymandering with independent redistricting commissions. It will guarantee that everybody's registered to vote with the automatic voter registration provisions. It will shut down all of these voter purge schemes that are out there. And there are a number of other excellent provisions relating to small donor-based public financing of campaigns, so we can get the big corporate dark money out of our politics and so on. So if we could pass HR 1, we've done it in the House and we're waiting for the Senate to act on it. They did have a hearing, which is a good progress, but it's going to bring us face to face with the filibuster. But I think that, you know, there's no running away from the filibuster anymore. I mean, it's a clearly anti-democratic parliamentary instrument, which says that the majority doesn't rule, you need 60 votes to rule. And that's very tough, especially with, you know, the way that the Republicans have been able to get power in a lot of the less populous, more rural states. So that's number one. I mean, you know, that is going to be the best antidote to all of these voter disenfranchisement efforts taking place around the country. But we've got to both stop those at the state level, but if we could pass HR 1 nationally, that would take care of it. But that means that all of us have to get back into a fighting campaign mode
Right.
to make this happen.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people after the election and after the transition, we sort of are taking a breath. We got to get back up there again. Let me ask you about the impeachment clause. Do you think that what has happened in this country recently in current events has effectively written the impeachment clause out of the Constitution?
Well, you know, I wouldn't want to say that, because I think that what we did, I am more and more convinced, has isolated Donald Trump and turned him into a political pariah in the country, because we were able to tell the story of his attack on the 2020 election, his attempt to overthrow the result and to continue in power, as he put it. What happens within the Republican Party, nobody knows, but it's a real struggle, because there's a significant faction, maybe 15 or 20%, who really think that Trump is intolerable and indigestible. But then you've got a majority of their party which continues to behave like, you know, members of, you know, a religious cult. I mean, these people, the senators who voted to protect Trump, you know, are fit basically for selling incense and a flower at Dulles Airport when this is all over. I mean, they have destroyed critical thinking, and they have destroyed any sense of democratic self-respect that they had. And that's what happens to people in a religious cult. I've ordered every book that exists about how you get people out of cultish ways of thinking and programming. And basically, you've got to show them a lot of love and affection and respect, but you've got to be absolutely emphatic and determined to debunk every lie that they've been told, that they've incorporated. And that starts with the big lie that Donald Trump won the election, that he lost by more than 7 million votes to Biden in a landslide in the Electoral College, as Trump defined that margin, 306 to 232, in 2016, when he beat Hillary by the same margin, said that was a landslide. Right. Well, he lost by a landslide. And yet, as recently as yesterday, continues to go out there to propound the big lie that he somehow won the election. He's also added on to the big lie that the intent of the mob was nonviolent. He said they shouldn't have entered, but they went in peacefully. They were hugging and kissing the police officers. They let them go peacefully, and now they're victims of persecution. So, I mean, this is really totalitarian style propaganda and lying that's taking place.
So that big lie is going to take deeper root if in the next election, suddenly there are more votes coming to the Republicans, which will happen if the disenfranchisement continues. So I'm wondering how you think Congress can move, not just for HR 1, but beyond to something that would be a new Voting Rights Act to counter this fascistic voter suppression.
Well, we have
and
a
the
new
Supreme
voting,
Court.
I mean, we've written the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and that includes pre-clearance of changes to voting with a new formula. You'll recall that the Roberts Court struck down the pre-clearance coverage formula in Shelby County versus Holder. So we've tried to address that head on. But what we're up against is right-wing judicial activism, and then this minority party that manipulates every lever of undemocratic influence. So the gerrymandering of congressional districts, which allows them to get 2-to-1 margins in the congressional delegations from Ohio, from Michigan, from North Carolina, from Pennsylvania before the court there struck it down. But they have 2-to-1 advantages in some of our largest states when the vote is either, when you add it all up, a Democratic vote, or it's 50-50. But that's the power of gerrymandering. So they use gerrymandering against us. And of course, they use the Electoral College, which is like this haunted house within the Constitution, just filled with every conceivable booby trap and springing mechanism against the popular will. And it's given us in the last 6 elections the popular vote loser twice: George W. Bush in 2000, Donald Trump in 2016. It has opened us up to foreign interference like Putin in 2016, and it opened us up in 2020 to a violent mob insurrection against Congress, all in order to try to coerce Vice President Pence to out of hand reject the Electoral College votes coming in from Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Georgia to kick the election into a contingent election in the House under the 12th Amendment, which Trump would have won because the Republicans controlled 27, or do now control 27 of the state congressional delegations. So there are so many traps for the unwary within the Electoral College that this itself has become a real danger to us. It's profoundly undemocratic. And the first bill that I introduced when I was a state senator here in Maryland, in Annapolis, was to move to a national popular vote through the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. And we are more than halfway there. We've got to make this happen before the next election, because you can read the writing on the wall. And every political scientist will tell you that the surest sign of a successful political coup in a country is a recent unsuccessful coup where the forces of sabotage are able to figure out where the weaknesses are and what they need to do in order to succeed next time.
So regarding another way to approach the voter suppression, given the unbelievable recent events in Georgia, do you have a sense that there are grounds within the Justice Department to take any actions to reverse what was going on in the state of Georgia, to deny various water to voters, as the most silly example?
Well, the Supreme Court's made it very tough with Shelby County versus Holder. I mean, they basically neutralized Section 5, which is the pre-clearance requirement. There might be some provisions where the DOJ could act, but it's always, it's a calculated bet because the courts have been so lopsided and tilted to the right. And the conservative judges have shown that they're willing to do whatever they can to neutralize democracy. I wrote a book about that called Overruling Democracy, the Supreme Court versus the American People. And it's all about these tactics of right-wing judicial activism.
So let me ask a little bit about the root causes of this rise of authoritarianism. I mean, half the country is angry, and in some ways they are voting for authoritarianism. What do you think fuels this? How can we address the root causes? And part of it you answered by talking about how we have to engage people on the other side of the political spectrum. But can you share more about how we can address the root causes of this?
Well, first of all, there's just one little footnote to your question I want to add, which is I don't want people to think of it as 50-50. I mean, the vast majority of Americans voted against this. Biden Harris got more than 7 million votes more than Trump did. That's a lot of votes. And we, although our margin shrunk in the House, we got more than 4.5 million votes more than the Republicans did. Now, a lot of our vote is concentrated in particular places because of the gerrymandering that has gone on, and also because of the fact that a lot of blue state thinking people want to live in blue states. When I address college groups now, they say, "What can we do?" I say, "I'll give you the advice that Hugh and I used to give the kids in soccer when they were 4 years old. Don't bunch, spread out. Some people can move to South Carolina and North Dakota and Alaska, and not everybody needs to live in Brooklyn and DuPont Circle, But so it's not really 50-50. We are clearly the majority by any measure, but we still have a problem, as you suggest. There's profound unease and discontent in society, and a lot of it is way too easily channeled into racism and nativism and homophobia and anti-Semitism and anti-immigrant bashing, all of these things. Well, the first thing we've got to do, and we have an opportunity now, is to show that the government can work for the people. And the purpose of government is not to divide people and polarize people and to spread propaganda and disinformation. The purpose of government is to meet the needs of the people. And this is what we were trying to do with the American Rescue Act, to get shots in arms and put people back in jobs and get kids back to school by investing in the schools so they can make the classrooms safe, and to reinvest in the public health infrastructure, which has been so depleted over the last several years. So these are things that we're doing. We're showing people that government can work, and that will begin to get some of them to disengage from these authoritarian and irrational ways of seeing the world. But we need to invest in education to give people hope. There's been such a demolition of critical thinking skills in the public through the combination of authoritarian religion, and then political propaganda and destruction of a media system, so that people are reliant on one media source. You're just watching Fox News all day, and all you're getting there is propaganda. I'm thrilled to see that this Dominion company, which makes voting machines, has sued Fox News for more than $1 billion,
right?
And is suing all of these right-wing outlets, because there's got to be some test of the truth. This was deliberate and malicious spreading of lies, and the big lie. And I hope it costs these people billions of dollars or bankrupts them, because of the damage that they did to our democracy, because of the destruction that they wrought in the country, culminating in January 6th. Voltaire said, if anyone who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. And there's no better synthesis of what happened to us on that day, that you had millions of people in the country, but tens of thousands who were actually brought to Washington believing absurdities, and then they committed atrocities, and people died, 140 officers injured and wounded because of it. And all of it with Donald Trump and his henchmen giggling in the background like the Joker and the Riddler and the Penguin, and all of these
Yeah.
nefarious figures at their, they basically had an insurrection tailgate party where they're all, drinking and eating their hot dogs and watching it on TV.
Right, right. So if I can keep you just for 10 minutes more, I'll go as quick. We're not going to get to all these questions, but just a couple more questions about politics before I switch to religion. Ethical culture members are looking to try to figure out what they can do. And on the easiest end of things is calling their representative to try to change a position or a view. Probably one of the more intense sacrifices is to get involved in direct political action, such as nonviolent civil disobedience. Can you just comment on those two poles of activity? Does it really do any good for somebody to call their representative? And what do you think about direct political action? And I have a follow-up to that.
Well, so starting the first, absolutely call your members. I mean, at this point, when we're coming from blue districts, we need people who are going to be activist members. I mean, I think the day is long gone when it's enough to put somebody in office who's going to vote right. I mean, we need people who go in as organizers to defend democracy and to push forward on social progress. So make sure those are the kinds of members you've got, make sure those are the kind of senators you've got. And if you are in a district that's represented by a Republican, you've got to be working, at least part-time, if not full-time, to get rid of that person and to organize for change there. And same if you live in a state where you've got Republican senators. I mean, each one of these seats is precious and the future is so precarious. In terms of nonviolent direct action, that's obviously been a core tactic of the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the peace movements, the labor movements, the human rights movement, all of them. And so that's certainly a tool in our toolkit. I don't think that there's anything that that intrinsically calls upon people now to be engaged in that. But if you're interested in nonviolent civil disobedience, I think now is a great time to contrast the history of nonviolent civil disobedience in progressive history with what just happened on January 6th and what they're doing to people on the right. That has nothing to do with nonviolence. That all has to do with violence and using violence as a tactic to injure people, to overthrow the rule of law, to wreck the Constitution. And this is going to be one of the themes of my Democracy Summer project this summer, Hugh, where we get college age and high school age kids together to train them on how to become political organizers and leaders. But we're going to be contrasting the history of the movements of nonviolent civil disobedience over the last 50 years with the use of violence by Trump and the extreme right to intimidate and terrorize people.
Right. Well, okay. So my follow-up is this: if things don't turn in the direction we need them to turn, when you're ready to get engaged in direct nonviolent civil disobedience and get arrested, let me know. I want to be there with you. So,
well, by any means necessary, we must defend democracy and the Constitution. And the good part now is what that means is being active, engaged citizens. It means decoding complex problems like the Electoral College, like gerrymandering, explaining them to people, and then showing that there's a pathway forward.
Right. I want to go to the last section of questions, mainly focusing on state-church divisions and the radicalization that religion is pushing. Where ethical culture is a liberal religion, what can we do to try to make sure that religious forces do not continue to take over state houses, municipal governments, and threatening walking into Congress and trying to take power?
Well, you guys can obviously keep growing and keep building. You're really at the crossroads of what has always been the basis for progressive change in America, which is a mixture of progressive religionists and then free thinkers getting together to fight for social justice. I mean, that was the history of the civil rights movement. with Dr. King in SCLC, and then, young people who are much more free thinkers, like in SNCC, Bob Moses and Ivan O. Donaldson and Marion Barry. So I think that the defense of the Enlightenment is critical to our ability to move forward. Science and reason and logical argument, empiricism, and commitment to constitutional democracy. And who better to speak up for it than you guys, and to demonstrate the connection between reason in public and peaceful change for the good versus unreason in the public, and then violence and destruction of the rule of law.
So one of the tensions in ethical culture is how much do we work with traditional religious groups who may have theistic elements that don't fit into our worldview, but clearly you're mentioning some of the works of progressives in the liberal religious causes. So
I think it's essential. I think that's absolutely essential to build that kind of ecumenical coalition. That was always the Enlightenment coalition. I mean, people will sometimes say to me, well, do you think that Jefferson and Paine and Ben Franklin, who were all considered, heathens and heretics and atheists and so on, were they really believers? Were really atheists? And, sometimes they said they were deists. I mean, the question to me is not extremely relevant. Sometimes Franklin or Paine would say, well, I'm a deist. I think God got it all started and then just left it up to us. So we've got to decide now. And then, the other times they said things that sounded like, we didn't need that hypothesis in order to create a good society. Other times they said things that might sound more religious. But, the real point is, are we moving things in the right direction? And we know the difference between, someone who, does ethical union or is a Unitarian or whatever it might be. We know the difference between people who invoke God as a force for good in the world versus people who enter a religion which is all about authoritarian mind control over the people who are in it. And then God is invoked as the basis for compelling people to participate in shameful actions and violence. And already even within the Trump ministry, because there are all of these churches that totally capitulated to Trump and gave him theological sanction for what he wanted to do. There are those who are waking up like religious cultists on the floor one morning, eating thin gruel, saying to themselves, there's something wrong here. We've lost our way, and you've got to be reaching out to those people too.
Do you think, one of the things that strikes some of our members is that there are people who worked in the previous administration who were patriots, who came from the military, James Mattis or John Kelly, who seem to understand the importance of rule of law and the importance of resisting fascism. Do you think that they should be speaking out more to try to convince people to get away from authority?
Absolutely. Well, the Lincoln Project was a very effective mechanism for countering Trump. Unfortunately, it had a hangover of other kinds of Republican pathologies, like some of them wanted to turn it into just a money-making operation for themselves and so on. But it did become a critical arena for speaking out against Trump and the authoritarianism within the Republican Party. That's really important. I hear from Republicans every day. I get letters and emails every day from Republicans saying that they just can't take it anymore. And they are becoming independents or they're becoming Democrats. And I say more power to them. I was endorsed in 2020 by my 2018 Republican opponent, who said he thought I was doing a good job and I was standing up for the right things. I had an event with Connie Morella, who was a Republican predecessor in my seat in office. I think all of us need to be reaching out across the aisle as much as possible. And I mean across the aisle politically and theologically, across the aisle, because everything is at stake here. And people are going to prove themselves in this struggle. Right. Which side are you on? And and we've had a handful of people, unfortunately, who've gone in the other direction,
So two last questions. One, greatest external threat. We've talked a lot about the internal threats in our own country. Greatest external threat in your mind, and where does the migrant crisis fit in this? How should we handle that?
Well, the authoritarianism and the fascism that we see at home emerging exists all over the world. Whether it's Putin in Russia or Orban in Hungary or Duterte in the Philippines or El-Sisi in Egypt, or you name it. And that is the global political threat that faces us. But the overarching threat facing humanity is climate change. If we had more productive brains, the world would see right now that the operation to combat COVID-19 can be seen as a dress rehearsal for what we really need to do to get ready for climate change and to mobilize the world together. The migration crisis is related to climate change and related to political violence and instability in Central America. So we need to try to view that also in regional terms and global terms, and deal with it as humanely as possible and as effectively as possible in that way. And I like the steps that we are taking in Congress to pass the DREAM Act to deal with the situation of the Dreamers, the TPS holders from Salvador and Guatemala, as well as from Venezuela. I think we can get these things done. We just have to resist the demagoguery, the racism, the fascism, again, of the right, because they would like to drag everybody back into that frame, which has no solution to it other than more fascism.
Thank you so much, Congressman Raskin. Jamie, I hope you have some time to put up your feet today. We're indebted to you for sharing your time. So I'd like to ask everybody on the call just to be thinking good thoughts, thanking Congressman Raskin for his wonderful talk, your graciousness, and the great work you do for us in Congress on behalf of humanists and free thinkers. Thank you so much.
Totally my pleasure, Hugh. Great to be with you. Stay close and stay strong, everybody.
I'll now turn the platform over to Bart Warden, Executive Director of the American Ethical Union, for some additional announcements.
Thank you so much. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this national gathering of ethical societies and all of our members and friends. We had well over 900 people here at one point anyway. Our next national gathering will be on May 16th, and I hope you'll mark your calendars and join us then. Today's platform was the result of a lot of planning, and I'd like to say a few words of appreciation for the planning team that put this morning together. Janie Solward, Vander Thorburn, Wendell Bohannon, Tevis Tsai, Joanna Brandt, Hugh Taft Morales all met multiple times to hash out the elements and put this program together. Their dedication and determination have been truly inspiring and has made Anna Orcutt John's and my jobs so rewarding. So thanks to our society representatives for the contributions, and to Leah for her wonderful music. And a special thanks to Kathy Askey for coming in at the 11th hour when one of our planners came down with the flu. I'd like also to invite you to support the American Ethical Union's efforts financially. There is so much that needs doing, and your donations can go a long way to help us as we work to bring ethics to life in our communities and beyond. Today, we're also inviting contributions to a special fund. We're so grateful to that Congressman Raskin has joined us today, and we invite you to join in the appreciations. After the death of Tommy Raskin, the Raskin family has created the Tommy Raskin Memorial Fund for People and Animals. This fund will distribute all money raised to causes and charities championed and advanced by Tommy Raskin, such as Oxfam, Give Directly, the Helen Keller Institute, and Animal Outlook. We'd like to make a contribution on behalf of all of our AEU members and friends. So please use the link to the donation form that has been put in the chat to add your contribution. And that link will also be available on the AEU.org website. So thank you. And now our presider, Joanna Brandt, will offer closing remarks.
Thank you, everyone, for attending today's All Society platform. Thanks also to Hugh Taft Morales for introducing Congressman Raskin this morning and for moderating the Q&A. Thanks to the ethical societies in Atlanta, Baltimore, Brooklyn, Mid-Rivers, and Silicon Valley, as well as to the AEU for planning and hosting today's platform. After the program today, many ethical societies will be hosting a coffee hour. There will be a separate Zoom link. We will post a master link in the chat that will take you to a list of these societies, along with access links to their Zoom coffee hour. Members and visitors are welcome to attend whichever society they choose. Before our closing song, I want to remind you to check the chat for the master link to the Society Coffee Hours page, the Thomas Raskin Memorial Fund for People and Animals, and the AEU's All Society Platform Fund. Thank you again for attending. Have a great week ahead. Remember to be kind to one another. And now, please enjoy our closing song from Bart Warden.
Oops. A little complicated. It's a small space, and adjustments needed to be made. So this closing song is Common Thread by a very good friend of Ethical Societies Everywhere, Pat Humphreys. In a many-colored garden, we are growing side by side. We will rise all together. We will rise with the sun and rain upon us. Not a row will be denied. We will rise all together. We will rise. We will rise like the ocean. We will rise like the sun. We will rise all together. We will rise in our many-colored fabrics made from strands of common thread. We will rise all together. We will rise from our children to our elders, from all nations. We will rise. We will rise all together. We will rise. May respect for all our differences enhance our common ties. We will rise all together. We will rise. And we will rise like the ocean. We will rise like the sun. We will rise all together. We will rise. We will build a global family strengthened by our common thread. We will rise all together. We will rise all together. We will rise all together. We will rise.
Woo! Thank you all. Go out and be good citizens.
Again, there is a link in the chat to the different coffee hours at the different societies. We want to thank you again for coming to the American Ethical Union's All Society platform with Representative Jamie Raskin. Be safe, everyone. Be well, and join us for some coffee in the coffee hour somewhere here in America. Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming. Bye. Again, thank you so much for attending. We'll see you at the next one. So good to get together, everyone. Thank you. Bye. Remember, there's a list of the societies that are having coffee hours in the chat. You can check that out there. Go have some coffee, everyone. Continue the discussion. Bye, everyone. Thanks again so much for attending. Great questions, great Q&A. Go out there and make a difference. You now have the tools. Thanks again to our rep, Jamie Raskin, for leading us in good conversation today and good thoughts of how to go forward. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. There's a coffee hour in your future. Go get it. Bye. Bye. We're down to 143. 143 can't make up their minds which coffee hour to go to. So many choices in the link in the chat. Bye. Have a good morning, everyone. Bye. 106, 106, 99. They're finding their coffee, people. You can do it. Continue the conversation over a cup of coffee. Thanks again to everyone who joined us this morning at the All Societies meeting at the American Ethical Union. Thank you. Have a good day. We'll do this again in the future. Bye, everyone. Thank you. We'll be ending the meeting shortly. So make sure you've got yourself in that coffee hour room. Bye, everyone. So long. So good to get together with everyone this morning. Have a good rest of the day. Bye. Remember to check the chat for your coffee hour. Bye, everyone. Bye. Good to see everyone, or at least see you in the chat. Bye. Thanks again for coming to the All Society meeting of the American Ethical Union, featuring our representative, Jamie Raskin. Bye, everyone. Thanks for your thoughtful questions. Bye. Have a good day. 65 of you need to go get your coffee.
The crowd just milling around, soaking it in, Kathy.
This is not the coffee hour.
Indeed. Well, I think we can probably start just kind of rolling it down, no, folks?
Yep. Well done on the tech end. That was really very smooth today. Great.
Yeah, a few bubbles here and there, but on the whole, I think not too shabby.
Yeah.
No, everybody did great.
Yeah. By the way, at the end, was I sharing slides? And then after I just before I did the song, was I sharing slides then?
I don't remember. Sorry.
Okay. And after the song, was I sharing slides? When Kathy was talking, were there slides going too?
I shared the slides after the song because they weren't being shared, so I hopped in and did that real quick.
After, okay.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, too close to my mic too.
All good. That's why we have multiple people working on this.
Absolutely. All right, peoples. Well, I think we should give a round of applause to all who participated and head ourselves out to wherever points we have to go to today. How does that sound,
Deep
everyone?
breaths.
It was awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Good job, folks.
Great. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks all.
That's a great job.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go into Westchester and see if I can find Lily.
Oh, yeah. You know what she was in is Scott Coughlin,
Yes.
her husband. I found out. I don't know why she
Yeah,
didn't change her name. She knows how to do that.
No, she said she wasn't able to as an attendee. Maybe when you sign
Oh.
in, you can. But she said she couldn't change it.
Oh, and then we turned the chat off. Ah, okay. Well, there we go. I'll be there shortly myself. Right, bye-bye, folks.
Bye.
Closing this out.
Yeah,
Thank you again,
Everybody did a
everyone.
Great job.
Good job, Janie.
Hey, bye, Wendell.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.